Shooting it raw?
Yes. Shooting it raw.
Okay. This one is called... Oh, dude. Okay. This one is called Cars from Leftovers from the Party.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So it's a screenshot of a photo by somebody, I guess, called Ziv Koren.
Right.
Okay. So somebody who didn't know what they're looking at would think, oh, this is a scrapyard where a whole bunch of cars are rusted and burned, or well, it looks burned. So basically there's like 1, 2, 3, maybe 4-ish rows, and maybe about like 70 cars, 100 cars, where all the windows are blown out in the cars. The paint is so it's very, very faded color. It's mostly brown. Leftovers from the party. These cars are just burned just deformed. Just, yeah. Sheila. Over to you.
Yeah. I'm actually you're mentioning this and I'm choking because this was a party. These are cars of young kids my children's age, late 20s, 30s, who went out to a peaceful party, a rave.
Mm-hmm.
There was about 3,000 of them. And on October the 7th, when the Hamas came in, the commandos, the terrorists, they came to the party and brutally and inhumanely murdered innocent kids. In fact, 5 of my kids, my personal friends were murdered. Another friend of mine's son was murdered there. And this is the point. We're such a tiny little country. What happened on that day with the party, with these were cars of the kids that came to the party? Mm-hmm. What happened that day? I'm not even talking about the kibbutzim at the moment, but at that party, in total, 1,400 innocent babies, elderly, children, people like you and me were murdered. Innocent, loving, peaceful civilians.
Mm-hmm.
And let me just make it quite clear, 1,400 may sound like, not a big deal. Because when we're talking about Russia, America, China, India, these numbers they're not that impressive. But 1,400 Israelis killed in one day is the equivalent of plus minus 50,000 Americans in one day. So I just want people to understand what we're talking about here. And this party, for me, like I say, these are my kids. This could have been my child. Okay, my kids were actually abroad, but they probably would have been at that party. And do you know how many people I know? How many? I'm just the average, 6-pack, so Joe's 6-pack in Israel. Average civilian living, making, a living, enjoying my life. And this party, I know at least 7 kids that were murdered. Okay, opposite me on the other end are 2 sisters from one family. Really close friend of mine, her son was murdered. And this is a salt of the earth. Okay, these are kids that are peaceful, loving.
Yeah, it was a peace party. It was a peace rave.
Peace party, absolutely. And it all started with rockets. They didn't know what was happening. Before, that morning started with rockets. I woke up at 6:30 in the morning from a rocket, from a siren. And the things that happened there, rape, and the way they brutally murdered them. I mean, it's so sad.
Can I just make one small request? You're just be careful when you move your hands against the wire of your earbuds, because the mic is in the earbuds, and so it just it just kind of breaks.
Sorry.
I mean, look, I'm going to leave this in the recording. That's fine. It breaks. So for the listener, what that sounds like is just the mic running. But so that's one of the things that I find hard to kind of connect, in the sense of like when people say, well, to make it equivalent, for you to understand how brutal and terrible it was, 1,000 I mean, of course, this is how we make sense of the world. So it's like 1,400 people in Israel is equal to 50,000 people in America, which is equal to, I don't know, 180,000 people in China. But it's that whole idea of one person is a universe. Like one person, like one poor person. And then the whole shock of the brutality of it all is that here you have a collection of people who are there, who are just like peace and love, maybe doing ecstasy or Molly or whatever, MDMA, who are just probably feeling so loved up and who have been dancing all night and who have been just like, and as you say, these are just basically kids. And then to have this like obscene kind of violence. Yeah, it's how do we connect? Yeah, how do we make sense of this? And so, for example, look, I'm not in Israel, but I am connected to Israel, and in a way, every Israeli or every Jew is connected in a way to Israel who knows somebody. So now it's been like 40 days or 40, however many days. So, like in terms of when you go through trauma, the first thing is shock. And the first sort of, the feelings are shock and then anger. And then, so
rage.
Where are you now? Where are you now? Where are you now in terms of your emotional evolution?
Wow, that's such a good question. I'm actually having such a hard time with myself. I don't know, because there's a lot of feelings within me, which I've not known them. I've never been connected to these type of feelings. I was brought up on peace and love and, respect. I grew up in Hong Kong. I grew up, I was Jewish, I prayed to Jesus. I grew up with Indians and Dutch and American. It was pluralism at its best.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And in the last few years as well, I've been, connected to, very an advocate of speaking to Palestinians and bringing Palestinians and Israelis together. But I must admit that I'm in shock at the moment. I'm very confused within. I'm going through feelings within which I'm not even aware of. I'm trying to digest them. And like I said, I'm just an average person living in a great place just outside of Tel Aviv. But my son's girlfriend as well, who were actually in San Francisco at the time this happened, and they flew back now to Israel. But her family were from one of the kibbutzim, so
wow.
It's really, really difficult to digest because when I'm sitting there with her family, there are 4 families from one family that come from the kibbutz Be'eri, which was hit hard. And
yeah.
I'm sitting with the family. So this family, the father and the son are dead. This family, they're being held hostage. This family, the brother was murdered. So I'm telling you, it's tough. And it also really touched, I think, not only Israelis, perhaps Jews abroad as well. It touched places really deep down because my whole family were from Poland. My whole family were wiped out. All my his father and his 6 out of 7 of his brothers were killed. So my parents went through the Shoah, the Holocaust, and it touches really deep places.
Sure.
Having to sit in these safe rooms. The kids not allowed to talk. They need to pee in buckets. No food for hours on end. And this is close. It's close to home. It's not like it's everybody has someone. Like I say, my son's girlfriend. So I am feeling rage. And when the way and babies being held in cages and 40 something hostages, babies. One of the kids there isn't even 1 year old.
How utterly fucked up.
And I'm trying to find empathy. I'm trying to feel, compassion for the good Palestinians, on the other side. And there are good compassion, but I am feeling angry and I'm having a really hard time getting over it.
Well, for sure.
I feel like an idiot as well to some extent because I feel naive. I feel I was wrong. I feel maybe I didn't see the picture correctly because there was, I was very, very left wing. I was very, we need to get, mustn't expand settlements, and I still think so. But I really felt, we're the strong ones. We can, direct things. I was wrong. And I know today I was wrong. Because we are dealing, I had no idea the width and the scope and the depth of the hatred and their brain, they're so brainwashed, the Hamas. I'm not talking about the Palestinians, I'm talking about the Hamas.
Sure.
But even today, when I hear that in the West Bank they did a survey, how many of them would vote for Hamas today? Then 70% said they'd still vote for Hamas. So I always made excuses, and I always said, "Oh, okay. If they say anything else, they'll be beheaded there." Okay.
Yeah.
But no, at this point, like I say, I'm really confused because I'm saying, hang on, where are these voices?
Right.
The people on the kibbutz were all very peace-loving. They were left-wing, peace-loving. They lived right across from the border, right, like really close to Gaza. And these people, a lot of these people were people that were going over. I have a lot of friends, personal friends, that went over, brought them over to Israel to get good medical care, drove them back, brought over little kids with cancer to come and get medical care in our hospitals. And the same people were murdered. So I asked myself, where are these people that they help? Where are their voices?
Right.
Again, I'm saying, okay, their voices cannot be heard because they're living within, these Hamas are monsters, Hezbollah are monsters, terrorist, radical, theocratic, crazy people that feel that, it's nothing to do with being on earth. They're looking forward to going up to heaven. But I'm saying, hang on. I understood this all these years, that they can't speak. And I asked some of my Palestinian friends, I said, why aren't you speaking up? They said, we're too scared to speak up. But on the other hand, look what's happening here. Gaza is being flattened. You won't have houses. You need to move. You're going to be refugees. You're suffering so much. So where are the voices? And if it's not their voices, then where are the Palestinian voices around the world? The academics.
Right.
And the voices we're hearing are also really confusing for me. The anti-Semitism, which people said to me a while back, I remember the Syrian refugees. Okay, when they came into Europe, and a lot of Israelis said, "Oh, what's happening in Europe is that it's going to become, Islam, radical Islam, and they're going to pay a price for it." And I said, "What are you talking about? Germany, everyone, they were fantastic that they're opening up their doors to these refugees, poor people, what they've been through." On the other hand, today I say, "What a mistake!" And so it's like it's confusion. It's really confusion. Today it's either them or us. 100%. I do not want Hamas on my border. I do not want Hezbollah on my border. I don't care at this point. I don't care what it takes. It's either them or me. For the Palestinian people, I do have hope that we'll be able to live, two-state solution, have a home.
Sure.
It could be Paris for them. I want that, everybody deserves to live a good life, but so do we. And that's another thing. They keep talking about the tens of thousands. Should I stop for a second? You want to ask me something? Should I let you ask me a question?
No, it's all good. Sheila, it's all good. Okay. You just keep going.
So, for example, they keep talking about the numbers, right? The numbers in Gaza. I want to pose a question. I was there as well. Like I say, prior to October 7th, I spoke differently. Today I speak differently because I feel like I feel like a bit of a moron. We had rockets and missiles coming over us for the last 15 years. Not me here in Hodesharon, although they have reached Hodesharon where I live, but in the south for the most part, but in the north, but mainly in the south. What these kids have lived for the last 15 years. They keep talking about the Palestinians being, their miserable lives, but if we had not come up with the Iron Dome, protective...
The missile protecting shield thing, yeah.
Just stop for a moment and let me ask everyone, what would we look like? We'd be smashed. Tens of thousands of people would have been killed. Because they landed they were aimed at our cities.
Yep.
And why do our kids have to live in shelters all the time? And why do I need to apologize for coming up with the Iron Dome? Again, my heart weeps for the Palestinians. And I think most of the Israeli people are there. We do want to live in peace.
Sure.
We don't want this shit in our lives. It's not easy for me to send my child now who's sitting in the army. He was in the middle of his life, finished his army, finished with the 3 years of having to not sleep at night, He went away. He came back to Israel because he wanted to, come and serve. And I'm confused because I want to feel compassion. I want to feel empathy, and I do not want to lose the humanity in me. Okay, and that's what they're doing. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to make us. And what do you do when you're dealing with inhumane people? They are not. I mean, if I start telling you stories about what they did, cutting off children's fingers.
You're going to see that this hour goes by super, super fast. And Sheila, the task of what I'm trying to do in my own silly little way is to open the door a little bit into your experience so that somebody who's listening can connect with that and care, right? And ultimately come to caring about what it is that is your human experience. And I know that by seeking to talk to people like you in Israel and who are going through this trauma and who are going through this, how does your brain deal with this? I mean, I understand that it's actually opening just a crack to the little Pandora's box, and I don't want to open it too much because I know there's going to be a lot in there. So luckily, or whatever, I've got this format which says we can spend about 15, 20 minutes on a photo, and then we kind of should move it along.
Okay.
So just to end just for a second. So the image is, just to bring it back to this image, it's just fucking brutal. It's just maybe 100 cars that are just burned completely through. And I can't imagine, or I don't want to imagine that there were people in these cars when they burned, but maybe there were.
Absolutely.
And it's fucking crazy.
What happened there was that the sirens went off.
Mm-hmm.
So, no big deal, sirens. But then they realized that the rockets didn't stop coming in. And then, by the way, the Hamas didn't even know about this party. They just came and shot at everything that moved and ran. And they took hostages. And they did brutal things there as well, rape the women. I mean, I don't want to go into the stories here, and the cars were people trying to, get away. And they were just there on the road, just shooting at all the cars. That's what it was all about. But on the other hand, there were amazing, brave stories. Amazing stories of amazing Israeli brave mothers and fathers. And, we're all soldiers in this country because we all do reserves. That's another thing. Okay. Everybody in the army now. I mean, these are doctors and nurses and kindergarten teachers and teachers at high school and
people.
Yeah, we've all been taken out of our lives now. We've all had to stop our lives. Okay, I'll go back to the party. Sorry, but fathers and mothers getting into cars, driving. The children SMSing, "Mom, Dad, they're all shooting at us. We, come and help, get us, save us." Stories of young girls they had these, what they call migonit. It's like, shelters, so they ran to the shelters. What they did was throw grenades in them. So you had young 22-year-old with 30 kids packed up on them. Other kids, running, trying to escape with the cars. It was just one big horror show. I don't think somebody in Hollywood, we showed the film. There was a 45-minute film that was shown to, people in Hollywood and also to journalists. They say they couldn't come up with such a nightmarish type of nobody could. It's barbaric. It's even, Hamas is worse than ISIS. People say Hamas is ISIS. In my opinion, they're worse than ISIS, what they did. They put a kid, okay, I'm not, again, we'll go back to that.
How's this? I'm afraid to look at the next image, but I think we have to go on to the next image, if it's okay with you.
Go for it.
So is life really a gift? Really? Can you make every second count? That's the whole point of the podcast. So if you like what you've seen and you're inspired, because that really is my mission, then please give it a like, subscribe, and share.
Shooting it raw?
Yes. Shooting it raw.